No one could calm the alien cub. Until a human used a simple cardboard box, the young creature's cries shook the sterile corridors of Galactic Conservation Station Epsilon-9. The sound wasn't just loud, it cut straight through the mind like a knife. The cub's psychic distress overloaded sensors, scrambled readouts, and sent several veteran xenobiologists stumbling away from its containment unit with headaches and nausea. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss our latest uploads. The infant had arrived only a few hours earlier, the lone survivor of a planetary disaster that had wiped out nearly every member of its species. No one knew how to soothe it. Its psychic panic reached into every system on the station, frying equipment and triggering emergency resets. Tyler Grant, the only human assigned to this sector, heard the noise while replacing filters in a faulty air recycler. Working maintenance on an orbital conservation facility wasn't the kind of glamorous space career he'd imagined as a kid in rural Montana, but it paid well enough and gave him a front-row seat to alien life most humans would never witness. At 32, with shaggy brown hair usually shoved under a standard-issue cap and hands permanently nicked and calloused from physical work, Tyler was used to being the invisible guy in the background while scientists with half a dozen degrees argued in conference rooms. But even he could tell this wasn't normal. He followed the sound to the observation room. The moment he stepped inside, the air felt heavy and tight. 7 different alien specialists, each one a recognized authority in some branch of xenobiology or empathic behavior, huddled as far from the reinforced viewport as possible, their attention locked on the creature inside. Through the glass, Tyler saw something roughly the size of an Earth house cat, but that was where the similarity ended. 6 slender limbs ended in delicate, clawed hands. Its body was covered in a thin layer of iridescent scales that shifted color in pulsing waves. 3 luminous eyes, arranged in a triangle on its face, shone with intelligence, pain, and overwhelming fear. Maintenance should not be in this sector, snapped Chief Xenobiologist Zex, his broad brow ridges tightening. The Telluran skin flushed a deep, heated orange, a color Tyler had learned meant irritation or outright anger. This is a sensitive scenario requiring scientific expertise. Tyler almost apologized and backed out. He'd been told often enough that he was non-essential personnel, but as he turned, something in the corner caught his attention. A discarded supply crate made from plain, corrugated cardboard. One of the cheaper containers shipped from Earth for non-fragile materials. An idea surfaced in his mind, simple and obvious, and yet no one here had tried it. With respect, Chief, Tyler said carefully, nodding toward the cub writhing in the containment chamber, your scientific expertise doesn't seem to be working. Zex's skin deepened to a near-burnt orange. Before he could snap back, the station director stepped in. Nari Valden, tall and graceful, moved with the unhurried confidence of someone used to steering entire projects rather than single experiments. Her translucent Illyrian skin glowed with soft patterns of light that shifted faster than usual, a sure sign of stress. She was one of the few high-ranking officers who greeted the human maintenance crew by name. We've exhausted every method in the xenobiological protocols, Director Valden said. The cub is broadcasting raw, emotional distress, so powerful it's disrupting our systems. 3 scanners have already failed trying to read it. She nodded at the box Tyler was now inspecting. What are you thinking, Engineer Grant? Tyler ran one hand along the ragged edge of the cardboard, suddenly aware of how basic the material felt next to smooth alien alloy. On Earth, a lot of young animals calm down in enclosed spaces. Cats especially. You can buy them the fanciest bed in the world, and they'll ignore it for a cheap cardboard box. He shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. It sounds silly next to your tech, I know, but maybe it helps the cub feel hidden. Protected. Director Valden considered him for several silent seconds. Our methods have failed, she said finally. The Calori species is nearly extinct, and this cub is the only known survivor. If we can't stabilize it, her voice trailed off. She didn't need to say the rest. She straightened. Try your box, Engineer Grant. The room erupted. Director, this is reckless. Dr. Mara Teal, the station's safety officer, bristled, the ridge of sensory spines along her skull standing stiff. The cub's distress pheromones alone could damage human lungs, never mind the claws. We can't allow. I'll take the risk. Tyler cut in before his courage vanished. He met Director Valden's gaze. Please, let me try. After a long, heavy pause, she nodded. Prepare the airlock for Engineer Grant. Minutes later, Tyler stood at the secondary door of the containment unit, suited but still very aware that his protective gear was not designed for a furious, psionically active orphan. The flattened cardboard box was tucked under his arm, its edges digging into his side. Doubt crowded in. What if the cub attacked the second he stepped inside? What if his dumb earth instinct about boxes was useless here? What if his different approach was just human foolishness that got him killed? The airlock cycled with a hiss. As he stepped into the containment chamber, the sound hit him like a wave. The cub's cries weren't just noise. Its distress pressed against his mind, like standing too close to a malfunctioning engine and feeling it vibrate in his bones. The creature spun toward him, 3 brilliant eyes fixed on his face, its body flattening in alarm. Scales rippled from deep purple to an aggressive, warning red. A low, resonant growl vibrated through the air. Tyler forced himself to move slowly, shoulders loose, hands visible. He remembered the stray cat behind his family's barn back in Montana, the one that had hissed at him from under a broken tractor until he spent weeks just sitting nearby, letting it get used to his presence. "Hey there," he said softly. The cub couldn't understand the words, but tone mattered. "I know it all feels wrong right now. New smells, new sounds, everyone's staring." The growl deepened, but the cub didn't retreat further. Tyler sank to one knee, setting the flattened box on the floor with careful, deliberate motions. He opened it into a rough, 3-sided shelter with a top panel forming a partial roof. Nothing fancy, just a small, shaded nook. Then he slid it to the midpoint between them and shuffled backward to the far wall. "It's just a box," he continued, keeping his voice low and steady. "Nothing dangerous. Just a place to hide if you want one." In the observation room, the scientists whispered. "What is he doing?" Dr. Teal demanded. "He's not even approaching the specimen." "Quiet," Director Valden said. "Let him continue." Time dragged. The cub remained pressed into the corner, its scales flickering between fear colors. Tyler focused on breathing evenly, resisting every instinct that told him to do something more active. Patience. Let it come to you. Very slowly, the colors washing over the cub shifted from alarm red to a wary violet. Its 3 eyes blinked in sequence, top, then the 2 lower ones. It had stopped crying. One of its front limbs twitched outward, then withdrew. A small breathing organ at the base of its throat expanded and contracted as it tasted the air. Then, with a sudden sprint that made Tyler's heart lurch, it darted forward to a position halfway between the corner and the box. It froze there, studying the cardboard structure from a new angle. "That's it," Tyler muttered gently. "Check it out. No pressure." On the other side of the glass, even Zex leaned forward, every eye focused on the tiny creature. The cub circled the box once, twice, its 3 eyes tracking over every seam and fold. It tapped the cardboard with a delicate claw, then sniffed again. In a movement incredibly fluid for something so small, it slid inside. Silence. Tyler realized he'd been holding his breath. What if the enclosed space made it panic more? What if a sound drifted from within the box? Not the sharp, psychic scream from earlier. A soft, vibrating tone, low and rhythmic. "Listen to that," Tyler whispered. "The biometric readings are changing." Dr. Teal's voice crackled over the intercom, shock replacing skepticism. Stress hormone levels dropping. Neural activity patterns shifting toward rest state. Heart rate stabilizing. Relief hit Tyler so hard his knees went weak. He managed a shaky smile at the cardboard box, now housing the last known calorie cub. One of its 3 eyes peeked out through the opening, bright and calm, scales now a gentle blue-green that instinctively felt like safe. "See," he said softly, "sometimes the simplest fix is the right one." "Engineer Grant," Director Valden said over the comm, her voice filled with genuine wonder. "You may have just saved an entire species. Stay where you are while we continue monitoring," Dr. Teal added quickly. But there was no anger now, only awe. Tyler shifted to sit more comfortably against the wall. The cub had retreated fully into the box, one eye occasionally peeking out to make sure he was still there. Every time it checked, he gave a small nod and relaxed smile. "I'm not going anywhere," he promised. What Tyler didn't know, and what the station's senior staff were only just beginning to realize, was that this small act of human intuition would ripple far beyond that quiet containment room. The Calori weren't just rare. They were a keystone empath species whose abilities had once helped stabilize entire star systems. And the bond forming between one frightened cub and one overlooked human maintenance worker, sealed with nothing more than a cardboard box, was about to change the galaxy's future. The next few days on Galactic Conservation Station Epsilon-9 felt like Tyler had stepped into someone else's life. Yesterday's invisible maintenance guy was suddenly the center of attention. Word of the cardboard box solution spread faster than an airlock rumor. Researchers who had barely acknowledged him before now crowded the observation room, asking for details about Earth animals, human childcare, and why creatures from his world seemed so obsessed with small enclosed spaces. More importantly, the cub had stopped screaming. The station staff had given it a name, Mika, from an ancient Illyrian term meaning one who endures. Director Valden insisted it needed something more personal than Calori Specimen 1. Tyler's official duties changed almost overnight. "Your maintenance shifts can be reassigned," Director Valden told him in her office, her skin glowing with calmer patterns now. "What we can't recreate is whatever it is that makes Mika respond to you." Tyler had protested. "I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything about raising alien kids." "Apparently," she replied, "you know enough." She assigned him the role of primary caretaker under the close supervision of the xenobiology team. The first time Tyler entered Mika's upgraded habitat, box and all, without the full crowd of observers, he felt nervous in a different way. The reinforced cardboard box now sat inside a larger enclosure filled with climbing structures, soft resting platforms, and environmental controls tuned to Calori physiology. Mika didn't hide. The moment Tyler stepped through the airlock, the cub bounded toward him on all 6 limbs, scales shimmering in joyful blue-green waves. It circled his boots twice, then reared up on its back limbs, front appendages reaching. "You want up?" Tyler asked, surprised at how quickly instinct had replaced fear. Mika answered by climbing. Delicate claws hooked carefully into his clothing as the cub scrambled up his leg, over his chest, and settled across his shoulders like a living, warm scarf. One sensory tendril brushed his neck, and a wave of emotion rolled through him. Trust, comfort, curiosity. "Tyler, this is extraordinary," Dr. Lena Soren, the junior xenobiologist observing from behind the glass, said over the comm. "Adult Calori are notoriously touch-averse. For a juvenile to initiate contact like that with a non-Calori is unprecedented." Tyler lifted a hand slowly, offering Mika the chance to retreat. The cub didn't. Instead, it pressed its scaled head into his palm, projecting a contented vibration through their faint empathic link. Over the next days, their routine settled into something that looked almost ordinary from the outside. Tyler played with Mika using puzzle feeders and climbing frames designed to encourage problem-solving. The cub solved each one with startling speed, often finding shortcuts the scientists hadn't anticipated. "You're too smart for your own good," Tyler laughed one day as Mika dismantled a complex puzzle that was supposed to take hours. Instead of hoarding the nutrient treat inside, Mika hopped down and carried it to Tyler, dropping it at his knee with deliberate care. "For me?" Tyler blinked. Mika nudged the treat closer with one limb, 3 eyes fixed on him. "It's offering you food," Dr. Soren said through the speaker, excitement in her voice. "That's a strong social bonding gesture in many species." Tyler couldn't eat the cube. It was formulated for calorie metabolism, but he understood the intent. He picked it up, turned it over as if admiring it, and smiled at Mika. "Thank you," he said warmly. Very generous. Colors of satisfaction rippled across Mika's scales. The cub climbed into his lap unprompted, curled up, and let out a soft harmonic hum that vibrated against Tyler's ribs. "Is that purring?" Tyler whispered. "Not technically," Dr. Sorn answered. "Historical records describe this as harmonic resonance. It's extremely rare. Calori only do that when they feel completely safe." Safe. That word had become Tyler's entire focus. If he did nothing else with his strange new job, he wanted to make sure Mika never had to feel the kind of terror that had shaken the station when the cub first arrived. A few days later, Director Valden called Tyler to her office. The view through the panoramic window showed the swirling storms of the gas giant they orbited, clouds banded in blue and gold. This time, she wasn't alone. Chief xenobiologist Zex stood near the window, his skin a neutral amber. Beside him was a tall, slender being Tyler didn't recognize, robed in silver-gray fabric woven with symbols that glimmered faintly. "Engineer Grant," Director Valden said, gesturing to a chair. "This is Ambassador Thel of the Galactic Conservation Council." Tyler sat, keenly aware of his scuffed boots and well-worn uniform. The ambassador inclined his elongated head, for eyes blinking in a formal greeting. "Your work with the Calori Cub," Ambassador Thel said in a calm, musical tone, "has drawn considerable attention." "I'm just trying to take care of Mika," Tyler replied, uncomfortable with the word work when he thought of the small creature that trusted him so completely. "That is precisely the point," the ambassador said. "Your just trying has succeeded where extensive protocols failed." Director Valden folded her hands on the desk. Her skin dimmed to a more serious hue. "We've received new information about Mika's people," she said. "You deserve to know." Tyler's stomach tightened. "New information?" "We originally believed the Calori homeworld suffered a natural disaster," she said. "A catastrophic tectonic event. We were wrong." Zex spoke up, his voice grimmer than Tyler had ever heard it. "A research vessel detected faint energy signatures just before the planet's crust collapsed. Those signatures match weapons used by the Vrex Collective." Tyler frowned. He knew the name. The Vrex were expansionist, powerful, and not particularly friendly. "They target empathic species," Ambassador Thel explained. "Any civilization capable of influencing others through emotional projection is considered a threat to their expansion plans. They prefer to remove such threats before they fully mature." "That's genocide," Tyler said, feeling cold. "Yes," the ambassador said simply. "And they are very good at disguising it as misfortune." "Why hasn't the council stopped them?" Tyler demanded. "Because we lack irrefutable proof," Director Valden said. "Until now." The weight of those words settled over the room. "So Mika isn't just rare," Tyler said slowly. "Mika's evidence." Ambassador Thel nodded. "The last known juvenile of a species the Vrex claimed could not be saved. If we present Mika's survival along with the weapon readings, we may finally have enough to force an official investigation." "And that puts Mika," Tyler said, "right in the center of a political war." "The Council sees three main options," Ambassador Thel said. 1. Move the cub to a classified sanctuary under maximum protection. 2. He hesitated. "To what?" Tyler asked, although he had a terrible feeling he already knew. "Return the specimen to the Vrex under supervised custody as a gesture of goodwill," Zex said bluntly. "They've requested access, claiming they wish to continue medical efforts." Tyler was on his feet before he realized it. "That's not a gesture," he said quietly. "That's handing them a target." "Sit down, Engineer Grant," Zex snapped automatically. Tyler stayed standing. "You know they'd kill Mika the second no one was looking. You all know it." Director Valden held up a hand. "I argued that option was unacceptable," she said, "which is why we're considering a third path. An irregular one." Ambassador Thel looked almost uncomfortable. "Director Valden has proposed temporary relocation of the Calori Cub to a world outside Vrex political reach. A probationary planet the collective views as strategically unimportant." Tyler blinked. "Which planet?" "Earth," Director Valden said. "Under your guardianship." For a second, Tyler thought he'd misheard. "My what?" You've already formed a bond no one anticipated, she said. The Vrex have shown little interest in your world. The Council maintains several discrete properties there, mostly for monitoring and research. It would be a temporary arrangement, one standard cycle, while we build a case and establish a permanent sanctuary. Images flooded his mind. Blue skies, real gravity, smell of soil, his sister in Colorado, long-distance memories of mountains and fields. He hadn't planned on going back. Space had felt like escape and purpose rolled together. Would Earth be safe for Mika? He asked. Gravity, atmosphere, local microbes. The Calori are resilient, Zex admitted. Their homeworld had slightly higher gravity than Earth. With a controlled environment and proper nutrients, survival is very likely. The Council would fund everything, Ambassador Thel added. Habitat, medical support, nutrient shipments, and a secure communication link to this station. Tyler paced, trying to process how quickly his life kept tilting sideways. And if the Council decides to hand Mika over, he asked finally, after I've taken the cub home? After we've built a life somewhere? Director Valden's patterns dimmed. Tyler, I need to know, he insisted. Because if that happens, I won't help them. I won't be the guy who delivers Mika to the Vrex. That would put you in direct violation of galactic law, Ambassador Thel said quietly. You'd be a fugitive. Then they'd better make the right decision, Tyler said. Because Mika trusts me. I won't break that. Silence hung in the office for a long moment. Finally, Director Valden nodded slowly. Your loyalty is inconvenient, she said, but admirable. I'll support the relocation proposal and your conditions. We don't have long, Ambassador Thel added. The Vrex delegation arrives at the Council hub in 3 standard days. Once they do, the pressure to surrender the cub will increase. So what's the timeline? Tyler asked. A shuttle is already being prepped, Director Valden said. You and Mika leave within 6 hours. 6 hours? Tyler echoed. I can't even pack in 6 hours. Your personal things can follow later, she said. We've also intercepted whispers about a Vrex scout ship altering course toward this sector. It may be nothing. We can't risk assuming that. Tyler's world had turned upside down when he first stepped into a containment unit with a cardboard box. Now it tilted again. Leave the station. Go back to the planet he'd left behind. Become guardian to a creature whose very existence could ignite a galactic scandal. He thought of Mika climbing his shoulders, of that soft harmonic resonance when the cub felt safe. I'll do it, he said, but I want somewhere warm, isolated, and secure, and a direct line to you if anything changes. Done, Director Valden said. We already have a site in mind. As Tyler left the office, everything looked different. The corridors, the passing technicians, even the security officers by the lifts. Any one of them could be an informant for the Vrex or their sympathizers. Any one of them could leak that the last Calori cub was being moved. By the time he reached Mika's habitat, his nerves were stretched tight. Dr. Soren looked up from a console, relief washing over her face. Good, you're here. Mika's been restless since you left. The cub's anxiety evaporated the moment Tyler stepped inside. Mika bounded across the habitat, scales flashing joyful colors, and climbed onto his shoulders like it was the most natural thing in the world. A sensory tendril brushed his skin, and the emotional message was clear. You're back. Safe. We might be going on a trip, Tyler murmured, stroking Mika's scales. How do you feel about my homeworld? The tendril quivered, sending a pulse of curiosity mixed with uncertainty. Later, after Dr. Soren helped design a transport container that would hold Mika's cardboard box inside it, Tyler watched the sedated cub sleep peacefully as they slid the entire box into the traveling unit. We're not sending it to Proxima Station, are we? Dr. Soren asked quietly, reading too much in the director's guarded expression. The destination is classified, Director Valden said. You'll receive updates once the cub is secure. Dr. Soren looked like she wanted to argue, but instead she placed a hand on the transport container. Take care of our little miracle, Tyler. The galaxy needs the Calori more than most people realize. Tyler swallowed. I will. He followed Director Valden and a hand-picked security escort through service corridors toward the shuttle bay, the transport container gliding beside him on its own gravity compensator. Tyler glanced at the sleeping cub inside, still curled in its box. "We're going home, buddy," he whispered. "To mine, anyway. Let's hope it could be yours, too." The shuttle ride from Epsilon-9 to Earth lasted 3 days along established hyperspace corridors. For Tyler, it felt like weeks packed into a metal box. For Mika, it felt like chaos. At first, everything went smoothly. Dr. Soren's mild sedative kept the cub asleep for the initial stages of the journey. The transport container maintained ideal caloric conditions, temperature, humidity, trace gases, while cradling Mika's familiar cardboard box. But once the sedative wore off, Mika woke to a reality that felt horribly wrong. No familiar habitat walls. No distant humming of station systems. Gravity fluctuations as hyperspace drives spooled up and settled. The cub launched out of its box in a blur of limbs and scales, anxiety flaring in jagged crimson and black waves. "We're okay," Tyler said quickly, opening the container as soon as the captain confirmed they were stable. "I'm still here. It's just the ship." Mika scrambled around the small cabin, checking corners, vents, and bulkheads. When the artificial gravity momentarily hiccuped, as it often did during long jumps, the cub let out a sharp cry, scales spiking in alarm, and bolted back to the box. Tyler sat on the floor beside the container. "I get it," he said softly. "Everything keeps changing on you." Hour by hour, they improvised a new routine. The cabin wasn't designed as a habitat, but Tyler used what he had. He tied shirts into makeshift climbing ropes, turned spare containers into puzzle toys, and rearranged his meager luggage to create little hideaways. Mika refused to go far from the box, or Tyler himself. When the engine noises deepened or the ship's structure creaked, the cub scrambled up onto Tyler's shoulders or curled against his chest, projecting raw anxiety through the thin, empathic link between them. Sleep became something they did in fragments. Mika startled awake at any unexpected noise. Tyler learned that the quickest way to calm the cub was to rest one hand gently on its back, letting his own breathing slow, so his emotional state smoothed out. By the second day, Tyler noticed something new. The emotional impressions from Mika were getting clearer. He could tell the difference between startled, confused, and curious but nervous. Sometimes when he focused, he almost felt like he could push reassurance back along the connection, as if calm wasn't just something he projected with his body language, but something he could share directly. He kept that little detail out of his official reports for now, not because he distrusted the scientists, but because he didn't really understand it himself. On the third day, the engines shifted into a different tone. The captain's voice came over the intercom. "We're approaching Sol System. Prepare for sublight insertion and atmospheric entry." Tyler brought up the cabin's small view screen. Blue sphere, white cloud swirls, green and brown landmasses. For 3 years, he'd only seen Earth on digital feeds and recorded footage. Now it filled the screen, vivid and alive. "That's home," he said quietly. Mika climbed up to his shoulder, 3 eyes locked on the image. Scales shimmered in shifting teal, the cub's now familiar, interested but uncertain color. A sensory tendril reached out to the screen, probing for emotional feedback. Finding none, it curled back, puzzled. "You'll understand it better when we're down there," Tyler said. "Trust me." The descent into the atmosphere was smoother than any launch he'd experienced growing up, when atmospheric rockets still rattled teeth and rattled nerves. Advanced dampeners kept turbulence minimal. Still, Mika pressed as close as possible, projecting clinging worry until the shuttle broke through the clouds and glided toward a small, isolated landing facility. No bustling starport, no crowds, just a series of low, hardened structures tucked among green hills and dense forest. "Private council site," the Arcturon pilot Commander Vel explained as she helped Tyler secure the transport container. "Remote, restricted airspace. Good for staying hidden." Tyler stepped off the shuttle into a heavy, humid warmth that clung to his skin. Real sunlight, filtered through a patchy canopy of clouds, felt almost too bright after years of station lighting. Where exactly are we? He asked. Costa Rica, Commander Vell said. Pacific Coast. Protected Conservation Zone. Local humans think this is just off-limits jungle. For you, it's home base. A ground vehicle waited for them. A sleek, low-hover transport with minimal markings. The driver, a human woman in plain clothes who introduced herself only as Agent Lee, scanned Tyler's ID, then nodded toward the back. Place the container there, Engineer Grant. It's a short ride. The path took them through dense rainforest. Green everywhere, layer upon layer of leaves, vines, moss. Bright birds flashed between branches. Insects chirped, whined, and buzzed in a chaotic orchestra. Even inside the transport, with sound dampening engaged, the jungle felt loud. Mika pressed its nose and eyes against the transparent side of the container, all three eyes wide. Scales rippled through colors Tyler hadn't seen before. Complex blends of wonder, caution, and excitement. Yeah, Tyler murmured. Not quite a space station, huh? Eventually, the vehicle stopped seemingly in the middle of nowhere. No buildings were in sight, just thicker jungle and a narrow path. We walk from here, Agent Lee said. The site is shielded. Vehicles can't approach closer without tripping too many local sensors. They followed the trail beneath towering trees and twisted roots. The smell of earth and vegetation was almost overwhelming, rich and layered after years inhaling filtered, sterile air. Just when Tyler started wondering if this was some elaborate trick and he'd been dumped in random jungle, the path opened into a clearing. The outpost emerged from the trees like something grown rather than built. Living walls of vines and flowering plants climbed over a structure made of smooth composites and transparent panels. Some sections curved into gentle arcs, others formed angles, but the whole building blended with the landscape instead of cutting through it. This is Outpost Terracori, Agent Lee said, triggering the entrance with a palm scan. Designed to council specs for your assignment, with modifications for calorie environmental needs. Inside, Tyler stopped and just stared. The space was divided but fluid. One area clearly belonged to him. A compact kitchen, sleeping alcove, hygiene unit, and work console with communication arrays tuned to Station Epsilon-9 and Council headquarters. The rest of the floor plan? That belonged to Mika. A complex calorie habitat extended through the main chamber and into a partially open courtyard. Adjustable lights mimicked different day cycles. Environmental controls allowed fine-tuning of temperature and humidity. Climbing structures, balance walkways, and puzzles were built into walls and ceilings. At the center, like an altar to simplicity, stood a large, reinforced box-shaped structure. It mimicked a cardboard box in form, but was made of sturdy material. The interior, visible through a transparent side, was lined with soft padding and textured surfaces. Tyler laughed in disbelief. They built an upgraded cardboard box. Director Valden was very specific about that feature, Agent Lee said. Apparently, it matters. They opened the transport container. Mika hesitated only a second before stepping out, scales flashing quick bursts of yellow and green as it took in the new environment. The cub moved cautiously at first, testing the ground, sniffing the air, glancing back at Tyler every few steps. When it spotted the enlarged box, all three eyes locked on target. That's yours, Tyler said. Your new safe place. Mika approached the structure slowly, sniffing at the edges, tapping the surface with careful claws. Then, with an almost audible sigh in their empathic bond, the cub slipped inside. Contented colors spread across its scales as it explored the interior and curled into a familiar huddle. The outpost is stocked with 6 months of supplies, Agent Lee said, handing Tyler a datapad. Calorie nutrients, environmental filters, human food, medical kits. A supply drone will visit monthly. Communication Channel Theta 7 is your emergency contact. Security fields keep unauthorized life forms out. Inbound scans will read this area as ordinary jungle. Local humans are told it's a conservation zone. Anyone else know Mika is here? Tyler asked. Very few, Agent Lee said. That's the point. After she left, silence settled over the outpost, broken only by jungle sounds filtering through the transparent panels and the gentle hum of life support systems. Tyler looked around. It was an impossible combination of things: alien tech, Earth jungle, and a domestic space built for a human and one emotionally gifted alien cub. Mika's head emerged from the box, 3 eyes fixing on him. "Well," Tyler said, lowering himself to the floor beside the structure. "Welcome to Earth, Mika. Guess we live here now." Mika let out a soft, trilling note, half question, half acknowledgement. A sensory tendril touched his hand. The feeling that passed through made Tyler's chest tighten. Relief, curiosity, and something very close to happiness. The first week blurred into a pattern of small discoveries. Tyler got used to real rain, Earth gravity, and temperature that changed during the day instead of staying regulator steady. He adjusted to cooking his own meals again. He learned which jungle noises were normal and which meant some animal had wandered near the outer field. For Mika, every hour was exploration. The outpost's back courtyard became their favorite space. Invisible security fields enclosed an area filled with soil, stones, and living plants. Mika could safely experience the rainforest's smells and sounds without anything larger than an insect slipping through. On the 5th day, thick clouds rolled in. The air grew heavy and still. Tyler was taking readings at the console when the first raindrops hit the transparent roof panels with soft taps. Mika froze in the courtyard, head tilted, 3 eyes staring up. Scales shifted to anxious yellows. When a few drops slipped through the field, designed to let in a bit of natural weather, Mika flinched as they spattered on its scales. "It's okay," Tyler called, stepping into the courtyard. "That's just rain. Water from the sky. Totally normal here." He walked out into the drizzle, letting it dampen his hair and clothes. "See?" He held out his arms. "No danger." Mika watched him, colors flickering rapidly. Slowly, it extended one limb beyond the covered section and let a few drops fall onto its scales. The transformation was instantaneous. Colors burst across Mika's body. Brilliant blues and violets Tyler had never seen so intense. A high, musical trill poured from its throat, changing pitch with every spin as the cub darted fully into the rain. It leapt, spun, and splayed its limbs to catch as many droplets as possible, head thrown back, sensory tendrils fully unfurled to the storm. The empathic impression that slammed into Tyler nearly knocked the breath out of him. Pure joy, wonder, a feeling like recognition, as if some deep part of Mika's biology had been waiting for this moment. "You like it?" Tyler laughed in disbelief. "You really like it?" They stayed until the drizzle turned into a heavier downpour and distant thunder rumbled. The first low boom made Mika's scales spike with a flash of alarm, so Tyler gently guided the cub back inside. That night he recorded a detailed report for Dr. Soren, describing every detail of Mika's reaction to rainfall. Her text-only reply came the next morning, filled with excited notes. Historical records, she explained, suggested the Kalori homeworld's rain carried trace minerals vital to their physiology. Their scales could absorb those elements directly. Mika's reaction might be an instinctive response, even if Earth rain didn't carry the same compounds. The days that followed were filled with other discoveries, less dramatic but no less important. Mika studied butterflies with intense focus, mimicked bird calls in surprisingly accurate tones, and developed favorite positions from which to watch the sunset through the trees. Tyler developed a schedule. Mornings, physical activity and exploration. Afternoons, problem-solving puzzles and cognitive tasks sent by the station. Evenings, quiet time, with Tyler reading aloud from novels or history files while Mika rested in its box. The rhythm of human speech apparently soothing even without direct translation. Some nights, when the rain drummed softly outside and Mika's harmonic hum vibrated from within the box, Tyler let himself believe they might actually pull this off, that an ordinary human and an extraordinary alien cub could carve out a safe corner of the galaxy together. A few weeks into life at Outpost Terracori, Tyler woke to an urgent notification blinking on his console. Priority Alpha. That label had never popped up on his system before. He slipped out of bed quietly so he wouldn't wake Mika, who was still curled in its box, scales dim with deep sleep. Director Valden's image appeared above the console, patterns on her skin tight with stress. "Tyler," she began without greeting, "this is an emergency update. Our intelligence network has intercepted Vrex communications. They've narrowed their search to your star system." The words punched straight through Tyler's half-awake haze. "You think they know Mika's on Earth?" he asked. "We don't believe they've pinpointed the planet," she said, "and definitely not your exact location. But they're looking in Sol. That alone raises the risk." Ambassador Thel, she explained, was pushing the genocide investigation as fast as council procedure allowed. The Vrex were angry, but couldn't openly interfere without drawing suspicion. In the meantime, Director Valden continued, "We're sending a security team to enhance the outpost defenses. They'll arrive within 48 hours. They'll install advanced cloaking and give you additional extraction protocols. There's another concern. Calorie empathic projections intensify under stress. Strong, unfocused broadcasts might show up on certain scans. For Mika's sake and your own, remain as calm as possible." The message ended, leaving Tyler staring at his reflection in the dark console screen. Remain calm, he thought, right? While a genocidal empire combed his home system for the child he'd promised to protect. A soft chirp came from the habitat. Mika was awake, 3 eyes peeking out from the box, scales soft lavender, concerned. "Just a surprise announcement from the director," Tyler lied gently as he walked over. "We're getting visitors in a couple of days. People want to help make this place safer." Mika's colors shifted in a pattern Tyler recognized as skeptical. Their bond had only grown stronger over the past month. Hiding raw fear from an empath wasn't easy. The cub climbed out of the box and approached him directly, sensory tendrils extended. Tyler hesitated, then decided partial honesty was better than strained silence. "Okay," he said quietly, kneeling to meet Mika's gaze. "There are dangerous people out there looking for you. They don't know where you are yet. Our visitors are here to make sure they never find out." The tendrils brushed his hand. Fear pulsed back at him, sharp and cold, but not blind panic. More than that, he felt Mika reaching, seeking details, trying to understand the edges of a threat that had already shaped its whole life. "I'm not going to let them get you," Tyler said, letting that resolve burn clear and steady in his emotions. "That's my job. That's our job." They went through the day, trying to maintain a normal routine. Morning exercises, puzzles, courtyard time, quiet observation of jungle life. Tyler monitored security readouts obsessively, jumping at distant thunder and loud bird calls alike. By late afternoon, Mika's patience with the pretense had worn thin. When Tyler suggested a new cognitive game, the cub walked right up to him, set its front limbs on his knees, and leaned its forehead against his chest. "Okay," Tyler murmured. "No more pretending I'm fine, huh?" Mika's tendrils slid up to his temples. This time, Tyler didn't block the connection. Fear, yes, but tempered with determination. Worry about the future, guilt at dragging Mika into his own species' political mess just by existing, and something deeper, terror of failing someone who trusted him so completely. In response, Mika shared a memory. Rain pounding on the transparent roof. Thunder shaking the air. That first big storm after they arrived. Mika's instinctive fear at the booming sky, the way it had rushed to Tyler, the human's heartbeat steady, hands warm, voice calm even as lightning flashed. Through the empathic echo, Tyler felt Mika's interpretation. Storms were loud and frightening, but they passed. Safety wasn't the absence of danger. It was the presence of someone who stayed. Mika pulled back, scales glowing steady blue-green. The emotional message was clear. "I'm scared too. We face it together." "Fair enough," Tyler whispered. "Guess we're both in this." 2 days later, the council security team arrived in a ship that never appeared on any civilian tracking feeds. They were a mixed group, 2 humans, an Illyrian, and an armored species Tyler didn't recognize, whose name translated roughly as those who endure impact. "Your location was already secure," the team leader said after a quick perimeter sweep. We're making it extremely secure. They upgraded the outpost's cloaking fields, layered on extra signal scramblers, and installed a hidden emergency transport pad under a section of the floor. Last resort extraction if things went very wrong. Mika watched everything from the habitat, scales shifting through thoughtful colors. Whenever a strange sound worried the cub, it looked to Tyler. He responded with a nod or a word, and Mika's color steadied. That night, Tyler received a new update from the station. The council's investigation into the Calori disaster had moved from preliminary to full inquiry. Testimony from other empathic species, energy readings from the destroyed world, and the undeniable fact of Mika's survival had pushed things forward. The Vrex delegation had protested, claiming the council was biased and ungrateful. They demanded access to their research subject. The council had refused. Still, nothing about any of this was fast. Galactic politics rarely moved in straight lines. Weeks blurred past. Life at the outpost settled into a tense kind of normal. On the surface, nothing changed. Mika grew taller, coordination improving as the cub navigated complex climbing routes with effortless grace. Puzzle designs had to be updated constantly to keep up with its intelligence. Their empathic bond continued to deepen. Some evenings, Tyler discovered that when he developed a headache from staring at data too long, Mika would climb behind him and rest tendrils on his temples. A cool, soothing sensation spread through his skull, easing the tension in minutes. "I think you just healed me," Tyler said the first time it happened. Mika answered with a proud trill and a ripple of satisfied colors. Dr. Soren's responses to these reports came filled with exclamation marks and careful caution. Historical records suggested Calori healers could help regulate emotional and psychosomatic conditions, but physical effects were less well documented. The more Tyler described, the more one thing became clear: their bond wasn't standard. One evening at sunset, Tyler sat in the courtyard, watching gold and orange light filter through the canopy. Worry gnawed at him. "What if this isn't enough?" he asked quietly, more to himself than to Mika. "One human, one Calori, one jungle cottage. You're supposed to grow up in a whole community, not just with me." Mika, busy watching a line of iridescent beetles on the outer trunk, abruptly abandoned the insects and padded over. The cub climbed into his lap, rose up on its hind limbs, and pressed its forehead directly to his. The connection that flared wasn't just feelings. It was memory. He saw himself through Mika's eyes on the first day, the strange, clumsy biped with a box, radiating fear and care at the same time. He felt the contrast between the cold sterility of the containment unit and the soft, safe shadow inside the cardboard. He relived the rain, the outpost exploration, the nights of reading. Most of all, he felt Mika's understanding of the word home. It wasn't a place. It was a presence. When they separated, Tyler realized he was crying. "Okay," he whispered, voice rough. "I needed that." Months slipped by. Mika grew, not just physically. The cub's mind and empathic abilities sharpened daily. Their bond evolved from simple emotion sharing into something closer to two-way nuance. Tyler could now tell when Mika was bored, intellectually hungry, or just wanted to play. He knew the difference between the cub's mild worry and deep unease. Mika, in turn, could sense when Tyler was anxious even before he knew it himself. One quiet morning, an incoming priority message chimed. This time, it wasn't a warning. Director Valden appeared on the console, her skin patterns bright with something like triumph. "The council has reached a preliminary conclusion," she said. "They've accepted the evidence. The Vrex Collective is being formally investigated for orchestrating the Calori extinction. Sanctions, limits on their expansion rights, inspections of their research facilities, all of it was finally on the table." Tyler exhaled slowly, shoulders easing. "So Mika's safe?" "Safer," she corrected. "But there's more." Deep-range scanners picked up anomalous readings on a remote moon outside Vrex territory. Follow-up expeditions have confirmed it, a hidden Calori enclave. Survivors. Tyler froze. "Mika isn't the last?" "No," Director Valden said. "A a small group of adults and a few juveniles. It seems they escaped the initial attack and went into hiding. They've been wary of all outsiders, but when we told them about Mika, she smiled softly. They want to meet the cub. Mika, listening from nearby, had gone very still. Scales rippled with colors Tyler had never seen in that exact combination before. Shock, hope, fear, joy. We'll be sending a ship to your location within weeks, Director Valden said. We'd like you and Mika to join the delegation. If Mika consents, of course. Tyler crouched beside the cub, meeting its gaze. Mika, the emotional answer hit him before the colors confirmed it. Yes. Anxious, but yes. He swallowed hard past the lump in his throat. Then I guess we're going back up. See, the Galactic Council flagship hung in orbit like a silver crescent, reflecting sunlight onto the blue curve of Earth below. Tyler stood at one of the observation ports with Mika beside him. The cub, no, not quite a cub anymore, taller, more poised, had grown into adolescent grace. Scales shimmered with more complex patterns now, emotions layered like chords in a song. Looks different from up here, doesn't it? Tyler said. Mika pressed a sensory tendril against the glass, gaze fixed on the planet that had been their shared home for years. The emotional impression echoed in Tyler's mind. Affection, nostalgia, and a firm sense that this wasn't an ending, just another beginning. The meeting with the Calori Enclave had been both nerve-wracking and profoundly moving. On the hidden moon, a cluster of structures had blended with the rocky landscape, much like Outpost Terracori had fused with the jungle. The adult Calori had approached in careful formation, scales controlled, emotions shielded out of long habit. Then Mika had stepped forward. What passed between them in that first moment barely needed translation. Tyler felt it anyway through his bond. Recognition, grief for all they'd lost, joy for all that somehow had survived. The adults had examined Mika with a mix of astonishment and quiet respect, not just for its survival, but for the humans standing at its side. Later, through translators and empathic mediators, the story came out of the destroyed homeworld, of secret flight, of hiding from Vrek's long-range scans. When they learned about the cardboard box in the containment unit, several of the elder Calori had gone very still. Our young seek enclosed spaces in times of fear. One of them projected through a neutral translator. It is instinctive. You saw this without knowing our customs. You listened. You saved one of ours, another added. And in doing so, you changed the Council's course. Back on the flagship, Director Valden delivered the official news. The Council's investigation had concluded. The Vrek's Collective had been found responsible for orchestrating multiple extinction-level events against empathic species, including the Calori. Sanctions were severe. Trade restrictions, patrol monitoring, forced dismantling of certain facilities. More importantly, the Council granted the Calori Enclave official protected status and allocated resources for rebuilding. You played a key role in this, Ambassador Thel told Tyler in a formal session. Your actions on Epsilon-9 and on Earth weren't just caretaking. They were diplomacy in its purest form. Tyler shrugged awkwardly. I put a scared kid in a box. And stayed, the ambassador said. You stayed when it was dangerous and inconvenient. That matters. The Council then offered him something he hadn't expected, a permanent position as liaison between humans and Calori. You understand each other on a level that defies simple telemetrics, Director Valden said. We'd like you to help build something new. Tyler looked at Mika. He didn't get just an emotional echo this time. He got a whole impression. Scenes of the jungle outpost, the station, the hidden moon, and future possibilities layered over each other. I'm in, he said. Years passed. The story of the human and the cardboard box spread across Council space, retold and embellished at every station and academy. People called it cardboard box diplomacy, half as a joke and half in reverence for the reminder that small acts can shift enormous systems. On the Calori home sanctuary, rebuilt with Council help on a world that matched their environmental needs, a monument rose in the central plaza. Not a statue of a hero, not a dramatic depiction of war, just a box. A simple, angular shape cast in durable materials, its interior big enough for curious children, human and calorie, to sit inside. An inscription, translated into dozens of languages, explained how it had all started. A frightened cub, a human who noticed, a place that felt safe. Tyler eventually found himself back on Earth with an official delegation. This time, he wasn't hiding in a jungle outpost. He was at a public event, standing on a platform overlooking a mixed crowd of humans, aliens, diplomats, students, and a scattering of curious kids. Beside him stood Mika, now fully grown, eyes brighter and presence more centered than ever. Their empathic abilities had only deepened over time. They become a primary mediator in delicate council negotiations. Every now and then, Tyler still caught them curling up in a box somewhere, a habit no amount of growth had erased. This is where our story really got going. Tyler told a group of young trainee diplomats clustered near the front. Not here on this stage. In a containment room on a station most of you will never visit, with a broken human career plan and a piece of cheap cardboard. A few of them laughed. Others frowned thoughtfully. We like to think big, Tyler continued. Starships, galaxies, treaties. But sometimes the thing that changes everything is small. It's noticing that someone is scared and giving them a corner where they can breathe. He glanced at Mika, who projected a warm wave of agreement outward. Several nearby humans blinked in surprise at the feeling of calm that washed over them. The Calorie have a saying now, Tyler went on. It translates loosely as, peace is built where fear feels safe to rest. Mika flicked their scales in an amused pattern. That, too, had apparently become an inside joke among their people. A large screen behind them played quiet footage of rain falling in the Costa Rican jungle, of a cub dancing through droplets, of a human laughing with soaked hair and tired eyes. This whole story, Tyler said, is proof that you don't need to be a genius scientist or a high-ranking officer to matter. I was a maintenance tech. I fixed filters and unclogged drains. It didn't stop me from making a difference. The galaxy doesn't just need powerful people. It needs observant ones, kind ones. He paused, letting that sink in. Sometimes the most powerful tool you'll ever have isn't advanced technology, he said. Sometimes it's the ability to look at a terrified creature, human or alien, and ask, what would make you feel safe right now? And then actually listening to the answer. Mika stepped closer, pressing their forehead lightly to his shoulder in a gesture that needed no translation. And that, Tyler said, voice softer now, is how a cardboard box helps stop a genocide, rebuild a species, and launch a new era of human, calorie cooperation. As the crowd dispersed, excited conversations swirling in a dozen languages, Tyler and Mika moved offstage together. You know, Tyler said quietly as they walked, we never did go back to that first box. Mika projected a flash of fond memory. The cramped containment unit, the dim light, the way cardboard had turned from scrap to sanctuary in one simple act. Then they showed him something else. In one of the new calorie sanctuaries, juveniles played in a courtyard. Dozens of boxes of all shapes and sizes were scattered there, some cardboard, some crafted from native materials. Young Calorie darted in and out of them, their scales bright with joy. Among them, a human child, no older than 8, sat inside one box. Giggling as a Calorie teenager gently resonated a calming hum. The impression that came with the image was clear. The legacy of that first box wasn't a single monument. It was a lived practice. Tyler smiled. Yeah, he said. I guess we did just fine. And that was the end of this story about a human, an alien empath, and a cardboard box that changed the galaxy. If you listened all the way to the end, let me know in the comments what you thought, good or bad. Your feedback helps me make better stories for you. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you want more sci-fi tales about unlikely heroes, alien friends, and small choices that make a big difference. I'll leave another story on the screen that I think you'll really enjoy. Big hug, and see you in the next one.